So what is Terramind? Terramind, in a nutshell, we are an endpoint-based solution. So we have an agent or sensor, if you will, that installs at the endpoint, which I guess you could say processes all the data that the user is doing, all the activity data. For example, they send an IM, they send an email, they copy a file, they enter keystrokes, they watch a movie on their screen, they RDP to another computer, things like that. And it classifies everything. Optionally, it can also record everything, and we'll touch on the privacy implications of that as well. All right, so what this allows us to do, because we have so much data from this agent that reports back to the server, what it allows us to do is to build very, very flexible and specific rules around user behavior. So we're going to start with the rules engine, because that's really the core of the system, the automation. So we'll go to behavior rules. We'll add a rule. You can use our templates. We have a few hundred rule templates that we've built out as a result of user feedback. And let's pick an etiquette template. Email contains a lawsuit threat. Let's see what that's about. So you click that, and that'll essentially load the template into the rule engine or the rule creator. From here, you have the flexibility of saying which groups or employees it applies to, exclude, classify the rule by tag. It's an email-based rule which applies to either Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo, Yandex, and a bunch of other email software and providers. And you can, of course, augment it with different rules. So, for example, we care when this user sends or receives an email with these regular expressions, right? But I want to augment it to say, well, if the email to does not contain my organization, right? So now we know it's an outgoing email from the user out to someone outside the company. So this would be a more, an event with higher risk, and we can say that that's a moderate risk event. We have the capability to block the email. We're not going to do that this time. What we want to do is to notify the administrator, whoever that is. And we also want to warn the user your action has been recorded. And that's the rule. Essentially, this is how you build rules in Terramind. You have different actions, different risk levels. I'll show you what that means, and different parameters to build the rules themselves. Okay. At the end of the day, what you have is two things. One, you get alerted instantly, and then of course you have an alert log. And number two, you get a risk dashboard, which gives you the bigger picture. So before we continue to build more sophisticated rules, this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is the alerts report. Let's say we want to narrow it down to web file upload rules, right? And I see that this person uploaded a file to Dropbox. And here's where Terramind's advantage comes in. Terramind is an excellent forensics platform. So in addition to detecting whatever you want as well as anomalies, we also give you the capability to look back into the user's desktop at the time of the violation, and surely enough, here is the user uploading the file to Dropbox. Okay. Of course, within the player, I can rewind, fast forward, I can see which rule this user's violated from here, jump back to any rule, see the user's activity, search for an activity, and so on. So it's like a sophisticated video camera that's watching over the user, and that's highly configurable when it records, what it records, and so on. Okay. Applications for this obviously are forensics, but also compliance. If you have bank tellers or a specific industry which requires certain set of users to be recorded, and this would cover that as well. Of course, please feel free to ask any questions in the box at any time, and we'll answer them as the demo goes on. So let's go back to rules. Just wanted to give you a taste of the types of rules that you can build with Terramind. Okay, so we'll build some templates by category or by type. Right. Let's go to privileged access. One of the things we can do, for example, is detect which types of files are written to which folders and which drives. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to know when an administrator installs certain software, then I could say file operation is write. You can get rid of file extension. File path is, program files or program files x86. Okay, so this would be an example of software being installed. That might not be a very high risk event. I just may want to warn this administrator. Again, your action has been recorded. Okay, typically this warning has the desired effect. In other words, once they know that certain actions are recorded, then they behave accordingly. Okay, so besides for the template, you can get really creative with these rules. We've seen a number of different use cases, a number of rules, different rules applied to different use cases. So for example, if you have remote vendors, you want to allow them to log in one at a time. In other words, not just open up your system to them. Then you can set a blocking rule, right? So please wait for access, and then allow the manager to make an exception. So when they try to log in, someone will get an email, whoever you designate will get an email, with the option to allow them to enter the system or to not allow them, to kick them out essentially. And of course that will be logged also. Okay. You can have rules pertaining to cloud file shares or file uploads to web. So for example, any file, okay, and the upload URL does not contain my domain. So any file upload through the browser where the upload URL does not contain my domain, that's a high-risk event, and we want to log that or even block it. And when we say block, we can actually block the browser from uploading the file. Okay, optionally, you can alert the user or not alert the user. It's up to you. So I encourage everyone to have a look later by going into our demo system and going into the rules templates to see what we've created so far. Send us feedback, let us know what you see. Of course, the second component that makes the system much more complete and robust is the anomaly rules. So we allow you, lots of systems can say we learn the user's behavior and we present you anomalies accordingly, but we allow you to fine-tune it because you can have a lot of false positives with that methodology. So what you can do with Terramind, for example, you can build, say, outgoing emails that have attachments, right? So that's going to be the anomaly template. And we could say the threshold count is 10. So even though the user may never have sent an email with an attachment before, if they send 3, it's still okay. The minimum for an alert will be 10. We're also going to set the baseline optionally, right? So the baseline can be the user's own previous behavior, sort of an auto-correlation type of thing. The anomaly baseline can be a department, which will be a cross-section. So for example, in a social media department or marketing department, they may visit Facebook a lot because that's their job, but that would not be appropriate for a salesperson in the sales department whose primary focus might be Salesforce, or the company as a whole. Typically for smaller organizations, this would be ideal because they don't really have the department division or the critical mass in departments to generate a baseline. All right, so if you exclude it, of course, it'll take all 3 into consideration: the user's previous history, the departments or Active Directory group, as well as the company as a whole, and that's probably the most robust. Okay, so then you select the risk level, and that goes into the risk flow. So you'll see these alerts, of course, with a screenshot with a rule that pushed the user over the edge to call it an anomaly. And at the end of the day, after you build anomaly rules as well as discretionary rules, and of course, anomaly rules can be anything: file uploads, network in, out, by volume, and so on. At the end of the day, you have a risk dashboard, which gives you the entire picture. Which types of rules were violated, on which days, by which users, and of course, the holy grail is which users have the highest risk score. Drill down, and the nice thing with Terramind is that you can drill down to the user's screen while they were violating, your rules. So let's say you build all your rules, you have a suspicious user. Well, what can Terramind tell you about the event? And that's where we really shine with the amount of data that we collect. So let's go back to our primary dashboard. Of course, this is configurable. Let's say that this was a department within a system, within an organization, and I want to investigate at random Melissa, right? So I click on Melissa. I see which websites she's visited. I can do a search. She's visited Gartner. I see today. Let's go back a little bit. She was in Facebook. Let's click here, and then I can see a video recording of that user engaged in that activity. Okay. I can see, for example, which emails were sent and received by this user, by any email client. This particular user uses Gmail. You can see the content of the email. You can see the user engaged in that email activity. Any activity in the system is accompanied by a video icon which takes you back to that point in time. Right? Any file uploads, downloads, copies to USB stick, burning to a CD, access network drive, anything like that gets indexed. This user didn't print, but let's go to the entire organization. Any printed document gets indexed, and very soon will be OCR'd for matching text. And again, the primary goal of capturing all this data is to build automation, a layer of automation, automated rules, because no person in an organization has time or desire to sit there and monitor the users.